Greetings, internets. Today, I thought I'd take a minute and talk about a very important subject, and that is backups. A lot of people think backups is just a copy of my data, and that's not accurate. Backups are a lot more complex than that. And because they're becoming a lot more important, they're also becoming a lot more complex. Used to, a backup was just that. That's how it started off way back in the day, is you made a copy of your data and you put it somewhere else. Unix systems back in the day would use tar for this purpose and go back to tape. Well, nowadays, backup systems require more than just a copy. Typically, backups are tiered levels of copies of data. And you can have backups set up to where they go to multiple locations, not just one. For example, you can have it go back to tape. You can have it go back to an external hard drive, as simple as that. You could even take it back to something more complex, such as block storage, Blob or S3 in Azure or Wasabi, or any number of other cloud providers. You could take it to any type of tape device. You could take it to multiple NASs and SANs and all of the above. But you can have as much backups as you want, otherwise known as copies of your data, as you need, as you're willing to pay for, quite frankly. The nice part is that gives you a lot of options. The bad part is it can make it very complex, especially when you start talking about things like immutability and other types of technologies that go into it. So what are some basic best practices? First, understand a backup is more than just redundancy. Redundancy is like having a RAID volume, multiple disks in a server or multiple power supplies. That's redundancy. Your backup is your last resort, but your backup is only good if you can recover it. And that comes to your best practice. If you have a backup, test it. Actually perform restores. Don't go by just what backups reports say. And one thing that you can use, I highly suggest, if you want to learn enterprise backup, Veeam has a community edition that you can use to back up your systems right now. It's completely free. If you have Synology, you can use their hyper backup and their active backup systems to back up to Synology NAS. And there's thousands of different backup systems out there. I'm just listing a couple, but that are free and you're able to use. But that allows you to make backups, perform restores, things like that. You can encrypt those volumes. That's another best practice. Make sure those volumes are encrypted. 3, make sure that any credentials that you use for your backup system is separate. So if you back up, like for example, to a NAS, make sure the credentials that you use on that NAS are different from anything else that you use on your network. You want those completely separate and isolated as possible. If it's a storage server, same thing. Don't have it on the domain. Have it locked down. Have it isolated. Don't let anything talk to it except the systems that need to back up to it. 4th, hopefully I don't forget my points here. I almost forgot what number I'm on. Number 4, you want to make sure that you enable immutability. Now, immutability is basically, it makes it to where absolutely nothing can delete these backups for a specified amount of time. There's typically 2 times. There's a compliance and then there's governmental type. Typically with the governmental type, that allows admins to log in and still delete it. But with the compliance type, it doesn't allow anyone, period, to delete those backups. So be careful which one you select. Make sure you select the right one. And a lot of cloud providers have this built in. Synology's have it built in. You can make it part of a specific share where you could set immutability. Likewise, cloud providers like Wasabi, Azure, AWS, GCP, pretty much all of them now have immutability capabilities, and enterprise solutions such as Veeam leverage those immutability capabilities to where the backup software, once it's done uploading its backup of your system, it then says, okay, make these immutable. In other words, make them to where no one can touch them for however long you have set, whether that's 90 days, a year, or 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Whatever you set, that's how long. No one can edit those. No one can delete them. And that's a huge protection, especially against things like ransomware, viruses, things like that. You also want to make sure that your backup system has some type of virus scanning. Things I like using Azure as a good example because you have the Azure Cloud. The Azure Cloud Storage can verify and make sure with the Defender for Cloud that you don't have any viruses in your storage repositories. Likewise, a lot of enterprise backup solutions like Acronis and Veeam, they have built-in malware scanners now where they work with your antivirus or have their own antivirus where it goes in and scans to make sure that if there was any viruses, those things are removed. So that's just a handful of things to keep in mind when it comes to backups, as well as a few best practices to remember. So make sure you check your backups, definitely restore your backups and test them. And don't forget to make them as isolated and as secure as possible, because those backups can be the most critical thing, especially in businesses. And while it's the one thing that everybody can forget, whether it's running or not, it's the most important thing you need if you need to restore a backup.